Have you ever seen a trade so bad that fans of the team carry a coffin around the arena? Understandable, because the Luka Doncic trade hasn't just failed, it's boxed the Mavericks into a future they never wanted. The Mavs want to build around Cooper Flagg only. Anthony Davis was just traded for a lesser package than Desmond Bane. Worse, Dallas owes several of their future first-round picks to other teams, so now we have a huge question. How do the Mavs build around a young star with no picks and no young assets? Dallas is about to learn a harsh lesson in what happens when you make a trade and don't plan out the future. And we're seeing that same thing play out after the awful Zach LaVine trade for the Kings and with the Pelicans draft day move for Derek Queen. These trades look somewhat fine at first until we dig deeper. But to begin, we need to stay in Dallas because in his career, Anthony Davis has had 296 total injuries to 51 unique body parts. He played in just 29 games for the Mavs when we were told that the whole point of the Luka trade was that Dallas could not trust Luka to stay on the court. Already awful, but I want to go deeper here than just the normal Luka trade criticism. So let's step out and think about the goal for any NBA franchise. You either want to be building a current contender or rebuilding for the chance at a title in the future. The Bulls have become a meme because they are always in the play-in game, but really, that is the worst spot to be in NBA limbo. And so while getting a potential star like Cooper Flagg is certainly a blessing, having your hands tied behind your back and not being able to build around him is also a curse. And we have seen this before. Ironically, we watched New Orleans fumble a young Anthony Davis because they could not build a roster around him. The Pels both didn't tank and couldn't bring in enough win-now talent for Anthony Davis. They had a young star, just like Dallas does now, and in 2017, AD averaged 28 points, 11.8 rebounds, and 2.2 blocks per game at the age of 23. That same year, the Pelicans won 34 games. They then eventually watched AD go and win a title with the Lakers. So let's say we fast forward 2 to 3 years and Cooper Flagg becomes one of the best players in the NBA. Here's what no one can currently answer. How do you build a team for him with the Mavericks' current pieces? The Mavs did not get back any other star young players in the Luka or AD trade, and they did not get incredible picks either. It says everything that people are saying the Cooper Flagg draft must be rigged, because that is the only explanation for what Nico Harrison was possibly thinking. Imagine making a trade so bad that you lose your job within 1 year because of it. And I get it. The current front office is making the best of a terrible situation post Luka Doncic fallout. I have seen a lot of people praise Dallas for at least getting a few picks back for AD, but when we consider the final package the Mavs got back for trading an MVP candidate in his prime, it is almost nauseating. So put yourself as GM of the Mavericks for a second and think about the future. How do you salvage this? What's your next move? But before we continue, I'm very excited to thank DraftKings Sportsbook for sponsoring today's video. Because guys, Super Bowl 60 is here and you can bet on every single moment of the biggest game of the year. We all know it's Super Bowl 60. The stakes are higher, every play matters more. And DraftKings Sportsbook is the best place to bet on every single touchdown that matters. And new customers, I have some great news for you. If you sign up using my promo code Korzemba, all you have to do is bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. You can bet on who's going to score the first touchdown, whether a player is going to score a touchdown at all. You are also able to stay in on the action and use those bonus bets on DraftKings same game parlays. Same game parlays give you a shot at an even bigger payout. And if sports betting is still not available in your state, don't worry. You can still join in on all the fun with DraftKings Pick 6 and have a shot to win cash prizes. So guys, new customers, bet $5 to win $300 in bonus bets if your bet wins. The crown is yours. Thank you to DraftKings Sportsbook for sponsoring today's video, and now let's get back to that video. Because already looking into the future, even if Cooper becomes a star, how are the Mavericks supposed to build a contender around him? This looks seriously like the 2017 Pelicans. I like Derek Lively, but he's been injured a lot, and we just can't count on him at this point. What we can count on is that Dallas is probably not going to get a huge free agent. In their entire franchise history, the Mavericks have never brought in a star in their prime. They are not a team like the Lakers or the Heat. If they couldn't bring in a big guy with Dirk Nowitzki, we can't can't assume that's going to change. And so let's combine that fact with the Dallas Mavericks' future draft picks. The Mavs literally need to get lucky again in this year's draft, because if not, getting another star rookie to pair with Cooper Flagg is almost certainly not going to happen during Cooper's time with the team. Dallas owes the Hornets their pick in 2027 unless it's top 2. Then they don't have control of any of their picks until 2031. So while the situation on the outside looks promising with Cooper Flagg on this roster, when we look at the inside, things just get rotten. Certainly does not look good, but now looking at the Pelicans, we have a question. Is it possible to trade for a potential all-star and still have made a massive mistake? Stick with me for a second, because there is an actual chance that this could age into one of the worst trades of all time. In early June of the summer of 2025, the Pelicans had a possible dynasty in their hands in the form of 2 picks. The Pacers' 2026 first-round selection, as well as their own. Because as it currently stands, owning both of these picks would have given the Pelicans the second and third best odds in a 2026 draft class that is supposed to be historic. It has been said by several scouts that Darren Peterson, Cameron Boozer, and AJ DeBonsa would all go number 1 in several other drafts throughout NBA history, and some are even adding Caleb Wilson to that list as well. So these 2 picks weren't just any kind of first rounders, they were winning lottery tickets. So how did the Pelicans fumble in what could be an all-time draft? Well, enter Derek Queen. For all we know, Derek Queen might be an all-star one day. He does have that potential, but it's also far from a sure thing. Currently, Queen is averaging 12.2 points, 7.3 rebounds, and 4.3 assists per game. Stats that are actually better than Jokic's rookie year, and many have seen similarities in Queen's and Jokic's games. But no matter how much you love Derek Queen, we can't be distracted by the overall picture. No matter what, even if they wanted Queen, the Pelicans should have at least one of those 2 top-tier draft picks, and in the best case scenario, they could have had both picks and Queen, because here is where the trade becomes awful. In the 2025 draft, the Pelicans traded their unprotected 2026 pick and pick number 23 to move up just 10 spots to pick 13. That is already an extreme amount to give up for the 13th pick, but also let's listen to the Hawks' perspective as this happened in real time. The league was stunned, and so was Atlanta. The Hawks could not believe their good fortune, and so Atlanta called New Orleans to double check, making sure this wasn't some kind of joke, and quote, the Hawks waited nervously for Dumars to confirm, hoping he would not realize what was going on and walk the trade back. But the Pelicans persisted, and the Hawks got their steal. So this wasn't hindsight as 2020, this was the league reacting in real time before the Pelicans would begin the year 13-40, before the Pacers would begin the year 13-38. It is just common sense. The last thing you do as an awful roster is trade away your first round pick. And clearly, based on the report we just heard, Atlanta would have been willing to accept a pick protection or other assets in order to make this trade work. Already bad, but it gets even worse, because in order to get that pick number 23, New Orleans had to trade the Pacers back their unprotected 2026 pick. Now, to be fair, Halliburton was injured after they made that trade, but if New Orleans was savvy and if things had worked in their favor, they could have done something like move a 2028 first rounder and a player to get the pick that was Derek Queen, which meant they could have had a core of Jeremiah Fears, Derek Queen, and 2 of the best picks in a 2026 draft that is supposed to be insane. As for the Kings, what they're banking on is a complete mystery, because we need to remember that before the 2023 season, the Kings had missed the playoffs for 16 straight years. We talked earlier in this video about how you have to choose a direction, and that is where Sacramento failed. The Kings learned the hard way that sometimes trading for talent is the worst thing you can do. Fitting into a system matters. Fitting with the players on your roster matters. But Sacramento convinced themselves that they were still a playoff team and ignored every piece of logic in front of them. Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan already did not work together in Chicago, so why would the Kings suddenly expect that duo to work now? Then you add guys like Russell Westbrook and Malik Monk, and suddenly we have a Sacramento Kings team that is built entirely around ball-dominant scorers. The result is exactly what you'd expect. The Kings rank dead last in the NBA in three-pointers made. There is zero spacing, zero identity, and no clear future. Sitting at 12-40, the only saving grace for Sacramento is that they've accidentally stumbled into a tanking situation. And here's where this trade becomes a failure in asset management, not just a bad fit. When you trade an all-star caliber player player like De'Aaron Fox. You're supposed to get something that helps your long-term plan. A young player, high-level draft picks, flexibility. Sacramento didn't do any of that. They got picks that will probably be in the late 20s, and they also centered the trade around Zach LaVine, a player who now has next to no trade value. Meanwhile, De'Aaron Fox would still command a real trade package if he ever hit the market. That alone tells us everything we need to know. And Kings fans can't stand Zach LaVine. His refusal to play defense has already turned the entire fan base against him.
As we got an issue over here between the fans, as this fan's still shouting and yelling at the Kings bench.
Zach LaVine leaves his man wide open for a three. Doug Christie calls the timeout. They come over to the bench. I say, yo, we don't pay to watch you not play defense.
The tragic part about this for Kings fans is that they do actually have one real asset left in Domantas Sabonis. He's still an all-star level player, but because of the franchise's decisions, he no longer fits into their timeline. Maybe they can get young assets for him because they currently are an older roster that isn't winning now and has no path to getting better. And if you're thinking, okay, Sabonis was injured, maybe he could save them. Even when Sabonis has been on the court this year, Sacramento has been just 3-16. They have set themselves up for some extremely dark days. In the past, they traded Halliburton, now they traded Fox, and now in the blink of an eye, the Kings went from finally escaping irrelevance to becoming one of the biggest drop-offs we've seen in years. And it's not because they don't have talent, it's because they traded without choosing a direction. And that is the real lesson here. When you trade an all-star without a plan, you don't just get worse, you might just lock yourself into a future that is a nightmare. So there we have it. Thank you for watching today's video. If you did enjoy it, I think you're really going to enjoy the videos that are currently on the screen. If you're already subscribed, thank you so much for supporting. You are awesome. We all know it. And as always, have an awesome day and cue that music.